here in Europe, there's a lot of people who uh, are claiming to be Lakota. Everybody wants to be Lakota, and they they all have a similar story. And a lot of these people, they don't know each other. Yeah, they're all over Europe, but they put um, a story together, and this is what they tell to people. Yeah, and some people believe it. And you heard me talking about like attracts like, and um, so this means low self-esteem people will attract other low self-esteem people. Likewise, healthy people will attract um, healthy people. That's just the way it is. So, um, let's see here. So this means that the people who make up these stories about their identity, the only people who believe them are other people with low self-esteem, because this is what happens when people with really low self-esteem try to deny their condition by creating a new identity to try to 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 fit this identity. They will do anything they can to fit this identity. First they create it, and then they do things to themselves to force themselves to fit that identity. So some of the things they do, they get tans. They're always in the tanning salon, or they spray on their tans. They dye their hair pitch coal black. They're always wearing Indian jewelry. They're always wearing T-shirts with this Indian head on it, Indian motifs. Yeah, like there'll be a wolf, thunder, a lightning streak going across the T-shirt, and and then they say that they're Lakota, and they cruise around the internet and find anything they can concerning the language, and then they use that and create phrases, and they try to pass themselves off to others as Lakota speakers. Yeah, they try to give the impression to others that they can speak the Lakota language, and this proves they are Lakota. That's what they do. Or they'll join language groups online that are free and try to learn phrases, and try to talk like that. And this is really, really, really low self-esteem. And this is this is what happens. Yeah, this is what happens when when they are trying to deny they have low self-esteem. Yeah, they create a whole different identity, and they do whatever they can to fit that identity. There used to be a woman from Switzerland who kept trying to, she gave me the story that that their father is Lakota, and that they never felt a part of the white world, that they never fit in with normal Swiss society. They've always felt different, and on their grandfather's deathbed, he told them that their father was a Lakota from Pine Ridge. Always has to be Pine Ridge, yeah, and that they didn't want them to know because they were ashamed Indian heritage in these people. So they never told them that they were part Lakota. And I find that very hard to believe because, for one thing, Switzerland is a neutral country. They're not in the European Union. They're not in the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. They're all to themselves. They consider themselves a neutral country. And they speak 4 languages in Switzerland. So I find it very next to impossible to believe that people who are really part Lakota, that their families would be ashamed of that. I totally disagree with that. I don't believe it. I really don't. Because there's such a huge interest in Lakota culture in Switzerland that I don't think anybody would say, oh, my kids are part Lakota. I'm just ashamed of that, so I'm not going to tell them. I'm going to tell them they're Italian instead, or Spanish. I don't believe that. I really don't. And I started talking about things on this show. I mean, you hear, for those of you who follow this show, you hear me talking about that the purpose of this show is to focus on our humanity, and that includes everything that I said in the when I was talking about the foundation concepts for this show. And you heard me say that it's not about being Lakota. It's about being human. It's about being Ikche, human. Because our ancestors never called themselves Lakota. They never did. That's about 2,000, within the past 2,000 years, they started using that word. But before that, we never said Lakota. Never. It's not in our stories. So, the these people, they there's a big clue here when they say we never fit in with our relatives and our cousins. We always felt different. We never fit in. And they always treated us differently. And at school, they made fun of us because of our dark skin. And I can probably agree to that. I mean, I can probably believe that part. But I don't believe the other parts. Yeah, I really don't. Case in point, give you a small example. I had 2 cousins that are about my age that were taken away by social services when they were 1 and 3 years old. Just babies. They were adopted out to a white family because that's what they were doing. Yeah, the social services were, excuse me, a lot of people were, wanting to adopt babies, and the social services. See, when you adopt a native child, the social services gets a certain amount of money from the government, and so to increase their budget would also mean they can increase their salaries. So they would, just make up any old excuse and take babies from homes where there might have been some alcohol involved. the social services would go there and take the babies away and then adopt them out to non-native families. And this this was really a crime. Yeah. Um, and when in 1978 there was a new law called American Indian Child Welfare Act, and this law said a lot of things. And one of the things it said was that all adoption files must be opened to the families, the native families who are looking for, their relatives who were adopted out when they were children. Now they can find them. So my mother, that's one of the first things she did was she went to the courts and got social services to open the adoption files from my two cousins. These were the sons of her brother, her younger brother. So she found them. They were in Minnesota, and they lived with a non-native white. They were a white farmer family, and these boys. It was so freaky. When they came back to the res, one was 16 and the other one was 18, and they were really shocked. They didn't realize they had such a big native family. Social services told the parents of these boys that all their relatives died because of tuberculosis. So they thought they had no family all this time. Yeah, for 14, 15 years, all this time they thought they had no family. So when they learned that they had a Lakota family, they were kind of upset with the social services because they lied to them. Yeah, and the parents were the adoptive parents were also upset because social services lied to them too. Because the parents wanted these two boys to know their Lakota culture. In fact, they didn't even know they were Lakota. They knew they were Indian, they just didn't know what tribe. So whenever there was some kind of gathering or powwow or something going on near their home, this family would take these two boys there just to get them interested. Yeah, they said, "This is part of your culture," they would say. You should learn that because it's a part of who you are. They really were lucky. They really were adopted by two really nice people. Because in most of these situations, it turned out bad. Yeah, but my cousins really ended up in a nice situation. This woman and man really loved these two boys as their own. But they knew the boys were native, and they wanted the boys to know their culture, to know some native things. They wanted the boys to be proud they were native. Yeah, they just didn't know what tribe they were from. And where they grew up, they said they never had problems. All they knew was this farmer world, this agricultural world. That's all they knew. So that was their identity. Yeah. So they had okay childhoods and stuff, and but they never felt out of place. Yeah, they never felt out of place. They had girlfriends, white girlfriends, but they never felt out of place. They felt, hey, everything is just, they're just a part of the scene. Yeah, they never felt like they did not belong. They had friends in school. It was afterwards that they had the problem. Yeah, that they decided to return to the reservation and things did not go well for the boys. I think they should have stayed in Minnesota because that's where they grew up. Yeah, that's where they grew up. They could have come to the res to visit anytime they want, but the res was not their home because they didn't grow up there. Yeah. So now one is the alcoholic and the other one, I don't know what he's doing. But if they had stayed in Minnesota, um, and they could have still, you know, they could have continued to live there, and because that was their world, that's where they grew up. That's okay. They can always visit the res anytime. So I think their mistake was trying to live on the res because it's not the same world. It's a totally different world. Anywho, they never said that they felt out of place when they were living in Minnesota and they were young children. They said they never felt out of place because their parents loved them. They had brothers and sisters, and they loved them. Yeah, they loved them like their own brothers and sisters, and they were very fortunate in that situation. But they never felt out of place until they came to the res. That's where they felt out of place. Because even though they look like us, they were not us. Because they didn't grow up there. Yeah? So it was a culture shock for them. That is reality. So when this Swiss lady, when she was, contacting me, and I went to her Facebook profile, and my first impression was, oh my God, this is this is this is a fake. I don't believe anything she's saying. And what they do is they say it's always the same story. I've run into so many of these people. It's funny, but it's always the same story. The story they create is that Pine Ridge, full-blood Lakota man was in the United States military. He was stationed somewhere in Germany or wherever, and he had a romance with a German woman or a British woman, because sometimes they were in England. Excuse me. And and the woman got pregnant, and the man, his what do you call it? His term was up. His service, he was going to be, his what do they call that? When you're in the military, there's a word for it, and I forgot what it's called. Where your service is up now, so you can go home, unless you re-enlist. Yeah. And this guy wanted to go back to the res, so he wanted to take the woman with him, but her family didn't want to let her go, so they forced her to stay, which I find hard to believe, because when you're an adult, the only time your parents can force you to do anything is if you're retarded or something. Yeah, and you're mentally deficient, so that your parents, say, no, you can't go, you have to stay. Because if you're 21 years old, you can do whatever you want to do. You're an adult. So I don't believe it when they say, yeah, and our mom was forced to stay here in Germany because her parents didn't want her to go. I don't believe that. And so the Lakota guy has to go back to America because he can't stay. And they don't. He doesn't want to stay. He wants to go back to the res, and then they lose contact. Then it just so happened that this woman is pregnant from this man, and then 9 months later, out pops this child, and that's what they're saying, that they're that kid. So and it's mostly women. It's actually, I think it's only women who have this story. I never heard of a guy telling the story. It's always a woman, and the woman, she'll say that, yeah, my mother never told me that I was Indian. She will say, my mother didn't want to talk about it. They all say that. They all say the same thing. It's almost like they're in a secret club and they all have the same story. But the truth is, they don't even know each other, but they come up with the same story. I think that's an interesting phenomenon. Really. You should do a research on that. The wannabe phenomena, call it. Yeah. So they all have the same story. So what do? They buy these T-shirts and that have Indian faces on them and lightning and a wolf and stars and they wear these shirts every day. They wear a bandana around their head like a headband. They wear turquoise necklaces and jewelries and rings and beadwork and moccasins, and they say aho at the end of every sentence, and they're telling people they're Lakota. Yeah, and it's just amazing. This phenomenon is just amazing, and they all have the same story. They all say the same thing. Yeah, it's just incredible. So so this is low self-esteem. Yeah, uh, because they're not even Indian at all. They're something different. Like some of them, there's one on the west, a part of Germany. I'm not going to say her name, but if she's listening, she's going to recognize in a few seconds that I'm talking about her. And she has this story too. Yeah, the same story that I just told you. And this girl, to me, looks either like she's Spanish or maybe Italian, but I kind of think she's Spanish. Because they're kind of dark. Some of them are kind of dark. So she could, so she's telling people that this, that she's Lakota. She does beadwork. It's really not that good, but she's acting like it's really good beadwork. It's really, really not that good. Now she'll probably unfriend me. But that's okay. I'm not here for popularity. Yeah, I'm here to talk about a problem. Yeah, and this is a problem. So hang on a second. I got something goofy happening here on my phone. Okay, what the heck is that? Something from YouTube started to play here. My phone's going crazy. It's a Samsung too, so I better be careful. No, it's an old one. So good thing I have an old one. Especially what you're hearing about the Note 7s. Anyway, let me get back to the topic here. Yeah, so this is one example. There's another one in Frankfurt, and She's when I first saw her, she Facebook. I saw her on Facebook. She friended me quite a while ago, and I looked at photos, and she's in a traditional dress, powwow dress, and I was looking at that and I was saying something about her don't look right. And she was saying she's part Lakota. And I looked at the photo and I just said, she doesn't look Indian at all. She doesn't even look Indian. She's brown, but she doesn't look Indian. So I started reading some of her stuff on her profile, and she said the same story that I just told you. The same story. She's saying that her father's from Pine Ridge, and she went to South Dakota one time. So when you see her photos on her Facebook, she will say, I miss my home. And she never grew up in South Dakota. She never did. She's from here, Germany. Yeah? And all these women, they really have bad relationship histories. That's what I'm discovering. Yeah, and they all these women, they say the same thing. They say, "Well, these German women, these German men, they just don't understand what it means to be Indian, so they don't understand me." And their relationships end up failing because of that. And I just have to laugh. I just have to laugh. That's that's a lie. That's a lie. Yeah. And then there's a one in England, and near, I don't know the town that she's in. I think it's somewhere close to London. And this one, she has a Lakota. She gave herself a Lakota name, and one of the words was Shunkaha. That's all I'm gonna say, because I don't want to promote these people. They're very unhealthy people. This lady contacted me when I still lived in America, and she said that her father was Yankton and that he was in the military. This is the first time I ran into this story that this phenomena story here. She said that her father was from the Yankton Sioux tribe, and that he had a relationship with her mother, and when it was time for him to return to America, she didn't want to go, and so he left, very sad, and that she after he left she was born. So, but her mother, she says that her mother told her she's from Yankton. Her father's from Yankton, and so there's an Indianness movement in England too. These are white people who dress up like Indians and they pretend to be Indians in the summertime. They live somewhere in the forest and make teepees and have powwows and just really, really goofy music, goofy singing, goofy dancing, but they really think they're Indians. Yeah, they're wannabes. She's part of that crowd. So are these German women who are pretending to be Lakota. They're part of this kind of thing too, in Germany as well. So, um, um, this girl from London, she was telling me some things about her life, and she said, "Yeah, all the Indianists, they're jealous of me because I'm the real thing, and stuff like that. They're really mean to me, and kind of thing." And all these women say that. All of these women say the same thing. But this was the first time I was hearing this. Yeah. in 2003 or something like that. So, um, so then I thought, well, that's interesting, but she just doesn't look. And I showed this picture to my mom, and my mom said, I don't know what she is, but she doesn't look Indian to me. She said, and she said, I don't know what she is. I said, but she's not an Indian. So then I just, you know, stayed in contact with her just a little bit because I was curious. And then she had this name Shunkaha in her name. I never heard that word before. She said it's Lakota. So I said, why are you speaking Lakota? She said, because I'm from Yankton. And so I said, Yankton people are not Lakota. I think they speak with a D. They're Dakota people. She didn't even know that. Yeah. In our language, there's three dialects: Lakota, Dakota, Nakota. And let me give you an example of how they're different, okay? In Lakota, we have an expression, lila washte, that means really good. We say lila washte. Dakota people, they say di da washte. Do you hear the difference? Where we have an L, Dakota people use a D. It's interesting. Yeah? And now for Nakota. Nakota is very similar to Dakota. This is the difference. Listen to this. So use the same expression. Dakota people say di da wash there. Nakota people say di na wash there. Do you hear the difference? Dakota people say di da. Nakota people say di na. See how similar it is. That's an example of the dialects. Okay? This Shungaha lady didn't even know that. Then I asked her, I said, what does Shungaha mean? I said, I never heard that word. She said, it means horse. And I said, oh. I said, well, actually, it doesn't. I said, the word for horse is Shunkawakhan. But when you use it in a name, it's always going to be his horse or her horse. And so instead of Shunkawakhan, they're going to say Tashunke. Yeah? Tashunke. Like crazy horse. Tashunke Witko. See what I mean? His horse is crazy. That's what it means. So I said, if you're going to, you call yourself, because part of her name it was horse. Okay. I said, if you're going to call yourself that, the Shungaha is incorrect. And she said, oh, thank you for telling me that. She said, I'll change it for sure. She said, she really thanked me. So I thought we were really becoming friends. Then in 2004, I moved to Berlin, and I heard from her again in 2005, and now she's still using the name Shungaha, but now she's telling people it means she-wolf. And I just had to laugh. It doesn't mean that. Shungaha is not a Lakota word. It's not a Dakota word. It's not a Nakota word. It's not even in our language. She's just making shit up. She probably read it in some book that has misinformation. So then she saw my website, malakota.com. If you see my website, it says Malakota. I am Lakota, because that's the translation. Yeah, Malakota means I am Lakota. So now she started to use that name too. So on MySpace, she started calling herself Malakota. I was like, oh Jesus, she's stealing things from me next. Yeah, and so, oh gosh, and so this is this is same story. Yeah, father's in the military, gets the humps a lady, gets her pregnant, and he has to return to the States. The mother, for whatever reason, is unable to follow him, so she has the baby, and the baby doesn't know what it is until later on, and then these people always say, "We never fit in. We always felt different. We just knew we were different." And then when we saw Dances with Wolves, we just cried. They all say that because that was our language, and it felt like it was telling us to come home. They all say the same shit. Well, you know what? Well, you know what? The Lakota that's spoken on Dances with Wolves is spoken incorrectly. The grammar is correct because they had real good Lakota teachers develop the text, so the words are correct, but they're mispronounced really bad. So when they're saying, "Oh, we heard the language and it was like calling us home," it was calling us home. This is, but the language was spoken incorrectly. Yeah? So how can it be calling you home when it's spoken incorrectly? You see? This is this is just crazy. This is just incredibly crazy. It's full of shit. It's all nonsense. And it's all because they have a mental problem or an emotional problem or both. They can't fit into society because they have a mental or emotional problem. They have a phobia. Most likely it's a social phobia. They're very insecure and they have inferiority complex, low self-worth, and low self-esteem. This is why they cannot fit. It has nothing to do with being Indian. Everything to do with low self-esteem, low self-worth, emotional insecurity, and inferiority complexes. So they create an alternative identity and they assume that identity after that. And so they start telling people, yes, I am part native, and I am part Lakota, and they talk like Hollywood Indian talk, yeah. Aho, they say at the end of every sentence. They have a feather in their hair, and like I said, they're wearing these T-shirts with the Indian head on it, and the lightning, and the wolf, and stars from space, or the earth, the moon. We don't dress like that. Nobody on the res dresses like that. We dress normal, just like everybody else. So this is a this isn't a low self-esteem problem. It's a mental illness, and because of this low self-worth and low self-esteem and insecurity, they have this social phobia. They can't be out in the crowd, so they create this fantastic identity, and then they assume that identity and go out into the crowd, and then they, like, yes, ma Lakota. They took that from my website. Yeah, they say, yeah, ma Lakota. They tell that to people. I am Lakota. They say. And then they buy a dictionary, and they excuse me, they buy a Lakota dictionary, and join these free language groups online. And these free language groups are full of shit too. They don't speak correctly on there, and it's really misinformation. Recommend these these groups. Yeah, I don't recommend these free online Lakota language groups because you don't really learn the language. People are just there trying to show off, and you don't really learn anything. If you're going to learn a language, you're probably going to have to pay for it. That's the way it is when you learn French, when you learn German, Spanish, Italian, English, and Lakota. Learning something for free, you're probably not going to learn too much. But see, they don't want to pay for this stuff. So they go to as many sites as they can, write down phrases, and they don't realize that there's a man's way to say something and a woman's way to say something. So getting back to this lady from London, this Shungaha lady, she took my introduction from my website. On my website, you see my picture on my homepage, and there's a Lakota text. You can hear me too. Yeah, there's a button where you can click it and you hear me say it. And it says something like, "Ha mitakuyapi apetuki le lila washte," and what else do I say? Lakotia hechaka chik ala tchoka akon ionke emacha pelo ash washichuya David Little alk emacha pelo wakia kiza tiosh by hemataha na. And I go on and on. I'm introducing myself and I'm telling you who I am. Yeah? And then at the end I say, "Na iuha chantewa stelna bechu zapelo." I shake her hand from my heart. And this Shungaha lady took that speech and she tries to say it when she appears in public, and plays her flute. She tries to say this, but she substitutes her own name. And now when you say your name, whatever your name is, like if your name is George Washington, you say George Washington Emachiapi, you say. Emachiapi means I am called. Yeah? Or some people today, they try to say, George Washington Mielo. That's technically, it makes sense, but we don't say that. You say Emachiapi. I am called. Some people will say, George Washington Chaje Mitra, or Mitra Chaje. Well, that's technically correct, but that's not the traditional way. The traditional way is to say Emachiapi. Okay? Now, I saw a video on YouTube of this Shungaha lady introducing herself at some event in England. And she says her name, and then Imasiapi, she says. Oh, Imasiapi, she says. She put the accent in the wrong part, and she doesn't even say that it's imachiapi, but she says imasiapi. And then at the end, where where I say, "Iha chantewa shtel na pechu za pelo," she says the same thing, but she says, "Kante iha wasteya nape siusa pelo." She says. Totally mispronounces everything, accent in the wrong place. And the funniest part is the ending. When I say chiusa pelo, that means I shake your whatever your hand. Nape chiusa pelo. I shake your hand. See, I'm saying it the way a man says it. A woman, she's going to say nape chiusa pi or nape chiusa pe. That's the way a woman says it. A man says it's pelo at the end. A woman is either going to say pi or pe at the end. And so when this Shungaha lady says pelo, that's the way a man talks. See, they don't care if they're saying this correctly. Yeah? So this means if they don't care that they're saying it correctly, that means it's an act. Because if you really are Lakota, or if you really want to say this in Lakota correctly, you're going to say it correctly. You're going to ask somebody, how do you say this? Teach me. Can you make a sound file so I can pronounce it right? But these people, they don't do that. They just make shit up on their own, which is telling you it is an act. They're pretending. Yeah. So do you see this whole thing, this fake identity is created for them. I mean, they create this for themselves so that they can, deny their problem. They have an emotional illness. And in some cases, it's also a mental illness. And they don't want to face it. Instead, they create this false identity. And they want people to validate them. When you need somebody to validate you, this means you have low self-esteem. Yeah? And if you have low self-esteem, that means there's other problems too. Because low self-esteem goes or includes low self-worth, emotional insecurity, and inferiority complex. Now, one of these German women that's pretending to be Lakota, she met a Lakota guy from my reservation. I'm not going to say her name. I'm not going to say his name either, okay? Just because I respect people. Remember, respect doesn't mean you have to agree. But their identities need to be respected, their privacy. So I'm not out here to make fun of them or put them down, but I'm out here to show what can happen with this kind of game that they're playing. This German girl, she met this guy on a single site, a native single site from my reservation. And I know this guy. We grew up in the same town. This is not a good guy. I know this guy. He plays with a lot of women on the internet. What he does is he finds a woman who can bead and make powwow clothes because he's a grass dancer, and so he will, really, get romantic with when he finds a woman on a single site who can bead, do beadwork. He gets all romantic to her, and one time he told this is another story. He told the same guy he was trying to um, snag Apache. I think she was White Mountain Apache from New Mexico, and her name was. I, I'm not gonna say her name. I better not say her name because I respect her. This girl ended up to become a really good friend of mine. Okay, so I'm not gonna put her on the spot here. But she's cool, yeah. And this guy from my reservation, let's give him a false name so I don't be saying this guy from my reservation. Let's give him a false name. Let's call him Shithead, okay? Okay, let's call him Shithead. So Shithead, he's trying to snag this girl from New Mexico, and he told her he was a Lakota language teacher and that he teaches children. They come to him and want to learn the language, so he teaches them. Said he had a book and that he wrote a Lakota language book and stuff like that. And he was really trying to sound like his traditional Lakota. But she said there was something about the way he writes that's just not. It just doesn't feel right. She said. She first of all, she was trying to find out information about him. Is this guy real or what? Because he sounded kind of good, yeah. But she wasn't too sure. Something just didn't feel right. So she started Googling this guy and looking for a Lakota language teacher, Dupree, South Dakota, because that's where he's from too. So she Googled that, and guess whose name comes up? Me. Moi. So she went to my website and she saw that I wrote a Lakota language book and I teach at a school, because at that time I did. And then she realized, gee, looks like this looks like Shithead is trying to be this David Little. And my email address was on my website, so she wrote me an email and she introduced herself to me, and she said, "Yeah, this guy named Shitheads, I met him on a single site." She said, and he's been writing me, telling me he's a Lakota language teacher and things like that. And I said, that guy is a bad dude. I said he doesn't speak Lakota. I said he's bad news. I said he plays with women. I said he's a player. And she said, "Oh yeah." I said, and from what she sent me his emails, and I was just appalled. He was really taking things from my life and saying that was him, that was his life. He was trying to be me. I was really shocked because this guy doesn't like me. Yeah? He doesn't like me. And here he's using things from my life and trying to say that that's him. So she told him to leave her alone. She said, I know you're lying, she said. And she said, I know somebody in Dupree. He's a very good friend of mine, but I'm not going to tell you his name. She told Shithead this, yeah? She told Shithead, I know you're lying. So I know another guy from the same town you live in, and he told me everything about you. And I know that my friend is telling the truth, she said. So leave me alone. So a couple of days later, I saw him in the post office, and ooh, he gave me a mean ass look. Yeah, he was pissed. Looked like he wanted to hit me. And I just had to laugh. See, you're a fucking asshole. Yeah. And I mean that's what I was getting ready to say to him. Then he left, and that guy's really rugged. Then he hooked up with a girl from Oklahoma. I don't know what tribe she's from, but she's native, yeah. And she really does good beadwork. So he pretended that she's his one and only, that he wants to spend the rest of his life together, that he never felt love like this before, and he's saying all this bullshit. And I'll tell you the reason how I found this out, okay? But let me continue the story first. Then, once she finished his new beadwork and his new grass dance outfit, they went to Denver powwow, Denver March powwow. It's usually the third weekend in March. As soon as they got to Denver, he spaced her out. He just took off. Yeah, it was her. She had her car. Yeah, she drove them. So thank goodness he didn't take off with her car. He just took off. She didn't even know where he was. So she watched the powwow and he wasn't dancing or anything. So she was like, "Where the hell is he?" Then when the powwow was over, he never came back to their hotel room. She never saw him again. She called the cops and said that maybe something bad happened, and she thought maybe somebody should check it out. She honestly thought something bad happened to him. Then she went back to Oklahoma. Yeah, she drove back to Oklahoma. And then, you see, they were on a single site called tribalsingles.net or .com. I don't know what it was called. And she was posting some things, and here a woman said, "Hey, I know this guy. I know this shithead." She said, and it turned these two women posted their stuff public because they wanted other women to beware of this shithead. That's why they made it public. They wanted other women to know what happened to these two women. And what they said is this: the Oklahoma lady said that shithead was living with her, and during the time she was doing, beadwork and stuff, and she was a nurse. When she was at work, he was on the computer sweet talking another woman from New York State. And they made an agreement to meet at the Denver powwow at a certain hotel. And even when the in Oklahoma, even when the Oklahoma woman came home from work and she would be cooking in the kitchen, she would catch him texting, and so she would say, "Who are you talking to?" And he'd say, "Oh, I'm just talking to a friend from this guy from," he would say, and she would go, "Oh," and all this time he was texting this other woman from New York State, and they were making plans to meet at Denver powwow. The lady from New York didn't even know that shithead was living with this woman. Shithead was telling this New York woman that he's single, he lives alone, yeah, and that he has no girlfriend. So the New York woman thought that he was telling the truth. So when Shithead and the Oklahoma woman went to Denver, Right away he just Denver. There's a lot of Indians there, and at that powwow at the Denver Coliseum, and he just took off really fast. Yeah, and so what he did was he got a taxi and went to that hotel where this lady from New York was staying, and spent the weekend with this lady. Ended up going back with her. So he played the Oklahoma woman, yeah, and suckered her out of all that money making a beadwork for his grass dance regalia, and it ended up with this lady in New York. And then he did the same thing to the lady in New York. When she was at work, he was on the internet talking to another woman. That's how she found out that Shithead was playing her. Shithead accidentally left his email account open. That shows you how stupid he is. She looked in there and saw emails from other women. He was writing to several women. And then she found this lady from Oklahoma and noticed that there was that yeah, she figured it out. Yeah, that Shithead was with this lady from Oklahoma while he was talking to her. Yeah. So she confronted him and kicked him out. So he had to walk back to South Dakota, I guess. I don't know what he did, but he got caught. Yeah. So this lady from New York and the lady from Oklahoma decided to make their story public to warn other women to be careful with this guy. He plays women. Well, this girl from Frankfurt who has one of these stories, that I told you, father in the military and all that nonsense. She met this guy on a singles website called Native Passions. Gee, fancy, yeah? Native Passions. Just picture this really big couple in a Pendleton blanket and both eating from the same fry bread. Oh, that romantic. Oh my gosh. Anyway, the girl from Frankfurt, the shithead contacted her, and she was started sweet talking her, and this shithead's the same age as me, which is mid-50s. Okay, this girl is in her 30s. Okay, so shithead was taking advantage of this girl's naiveness. I don't know how you say that, but she was very naive. Yeah, but low self-esteem, identity problem, all that. Okay, and she wants to find herself a Lakota man and move to South Dakota and be in heaven with a Lakota man. That's her goal. Okay, so she thought her prayers were answered by, the shithead contacting her on the single site. So she ended up going over there for a 3-week visit, and he met her, took her back to Cheyenne River Sioux Reservation. He lives in a town called Isabel, which is very close to Dupree. And he stayed with her, and after 1 week, he put her outside. He told her, "You stay outside." In 1 week, got tired of her. She didn't know where to go. She don't even speak English that good. She barely speaks English. So somebody saw her just standing out there. She didn't know what to do. So somebody came over and said, "What's wrong?" He said, and she said, "Oh, it's my fault. I got my boyfriend angry and he doesn't want to talk to me. And yeah, he's just told me to stand out here, so I'm waiting for him to cool off." But the lady that saw her, she knew that this was domestic abuse. So she said, "Come with me," she said. So the next 2 weeks, she stayed at a woman's shelter until it was time for her to come back to Germany. She didn't have the money to change her flight. She didn't even have that much money. Just imagine this lady flew 6,000 miles to be with Shithead. After he uses her for 1 week, he tells her to stay outside, doesn't even feed her, treats her mean, and she says well, it's my fault. I got him mad. I shouldn't have said, see, that's low self-esteem. That's low self-worth. That's the language of a battered woman. A battered woman is a victim, and victims naturally attract oppressors. The reason why is because oppressors also have low self-esteem and low self-worth and inferiority complexes. That's why they always need to put others down. And they have emotional insecurities. So she spent 2/3 of her visit in a women's shelter, nowhere else to go. Then, when it was time for her to go back to Rapid City, the women's shelter people, they were able to drive her back to the airport, and they just told her to be careful from now on. Yes, this guy's a bad guy. So she returned to Germany. Do you think she learned her lesson? No. I went to see his profile, Shithead's Facebook profile. And as recent as just a couple of months ago, this German girl wrote on his timeline, made it public. She said, Why do you treat me so bad?" She said, "I do everything for you. You're the love of my life. There's nobody but you. You are my everything. Why did you go out with this other woman and this other woman and that other woman? Don't you know that just hurts me? Why do you do this to me? Don't you know I love you so much? I can't live without you," she said. "Why can't you see that you're the one for me?" she said. And I thought, oh my fucking God, this girl really has a problem. This is a mental illness. Severe. And if she decides to, no longer pursue Shithead, remember, like attracts like. She will find another Shithead. And the same thing is going to happen because like attracts like. The cycle of abuse is going to go over and over and over until she gets emotionally healthy. But the problem is when with men and women who are like her, they always blame themselves. And they say, "Oh, it's me. He's a nice guy, but it's because I did something wrong." See, they blame themselves. And then they get to a point where they they threaten to kill themselves. And then they stay in bed. They don't even do anything. They have depression. See? This whole act of creating a false identity and then assuming that false identity. They do this to hide their mental illness, but it doesn't work. It's just a mask, and masks fall off. So that's a problem. And if she doesn't fix herself, her next one is going to be the same way. Because like attracts like. All these women who are pretending to be Lakota, not one has a man. Not one. Not a single one has a man. That says something. Yeah, that, like I said, that is emotional illness, and in many cases, it's also mental illness. Like with this girl from Frankfurt, Germany, it's a mental illness. There's depression involved. That's a hard one. That's a very difficult one to deal with. Sad. I feel sad for this girl. We say Ushika. She's Ushika. There's something wrong with her. Now, if Shithead really did not want to have any contact with this girl from Frankfurt, he would block her from on Facebook. But he doesn't do that because there are times contacts her and he says, "Hey, how are you doing?" And all of a sudden, she's like, "Oh, my man is back. Oh, my love, I miss you so much. I just want you to know I love you forever." And she goes on and on and on and on and on and on and on. And why do you think he contacts her? He has nobody else to talk to. And he wants some beadwork because this girl does beadwork. So he's trying to score some beadwork from this girl. So he's going to be really nice to her and all lovey-dovey and promise to that they'll be together and stuff like that. Then as soon as she sends him the beadwork, he shuts her off. Then the whole cycle starts again. "Oh, shithead, why do you do this to me? Don't you see that you're my one and only? Don't you see that you're my future? I can't live without you. Why can't you see that I do all these nice things for you and you treat me so bad? Why do you do this to me, shithead? Why do you go out with this woman and that woman? I know you were with her. Why did you do that? Don't you see that that hurts me?" The whole cycle goes again. This is an emotional and mental illness. Like attracts like. Until she changes and becomes healthy, she's always going to find another shithead. Now, if she were to meet me, I think she's going to be in shock because I'm healthy. And she's not going to be able to handle me because I'm a good guy. I'm not like this shithead. I don't have low self esteem. So there will be no attraction unless I'm a shithead. Then she will be attracted because she has low self esteem. In other words, shitheads attract other shitheads. Do you understand what I'm saying? Can you read between the lines? See what I mean? Low self esteem attracts low self esteem. So this is really a problem, yeah. And it's so unfortunate that this happens. It's actually really sad. There's another German girl that when I first she contacted me first, and she was saying she's from Pine Ridge. She said this to me about, oh no, 10 years ago. Now she's saying she's from Cheyenne River. She even flew to Cheyenne River, and she went to places on my reservation, took selfies of herself on certain bridges that I know. And she's saying, "Oh, I'm finally home." This girl can't even speak English. Yeah. See, she changed her tribe. And this Shungaha lady from London, first she said she was from Yankton. Then a few years later, she was telling people that she's a cousin to this author, Joseph something. I don't remember his last name. Uh, but she started saying that that was her cousin. So then she started to say now she's Rosebud, Sicangu, Lakota. She started telling people she's Sicangu, Lakota. That, and now today she changed again. Now she's saying she's a descendant of Red Cloud, and she's Oglala. She keeps changing her tribe. This girl I found out is actually from Morocco. She's part Arab. She is not Native American. I was correct. She's not Indian. She's not Native. She's an Arab lady. And her hair is like African. She irons it. Yeah, she irons her hair to keep it straight. And she uses tanning, what do you call it? Spray on tan to make her skin brown. And she overdoes it. She even makes the palms of her hands really, really brown. And nobody has the same skin color in the palms as on the back of your hand. Nobody does. Everybody's palms are lighter skin color, no matter what color your skin is. Your palms and the palms of your hand and the soles of your feet are always lighter colored. That's just the way it is. This lady from London, this Shunkaha lady, is just really messed up too. Yeah. So this is very unhealthy individuals that are pretending to be something they are not. Now we have a story that addresses this. It's a very old story, and it's actually kind of a funny story. Turtle who wanted to fly. Long time ago, a turtle was swimming in a creek, pretending to be flying around in the water because he really wanted to fly. He would look up and watch the eagles when they flew nearby. He would admire how they would appear to be floating in the air and gliding really gently. The turtle really wanted to do that, but he could only stretch out his forelegs, his tail, and his head, and he would pretend that they were his wings, and that the water was the clouds. Thus he would soar in this manner in the water. However, his secret wish was to fly like an eagle. Then one day an eagle landed on a rock near the shore of the creek. The turtle swam to the surface of the water, and his little head just popped up above the water. Then he swam close to where the eagle was standing. Turtle hinted to the eagle, "Geez, I wish I could fly way up there in the sky and just float around. That would be so wonderful. If only I could fly. If
only there was a way. Eagle said nothing as he was relaxing and not showing any attention to Turtle. Finally, Turtle swam to the shore and spoke directly to the eagle. "Little brother, would you please teach me to fly?" Eagle said, "But big brother, you will surely die or really hurt yourself bad." Turtle said, "Little brother, I am a really smart guy. I know I will learn very easily to fly if you just show me how." Eagle said, "Don't be ridiculous. Big brother, if you go way up in the sky, you are just going to fall and break into pieces when you land on the ground." Turtle persisted, "No, not even. I just know that I can do it once I learn how. See, watch me now." Then he showed the eagle how he would fly, by first sticking out his 4 legs and his tail. Then he made his legs and his tail and his head move as if they were his wings. The eagle said, "If that is how you plan to fly, then you will die for sure." Turtle kept persisting until finally Eagle said, "Okay, I will teach you how to fly, but you have to follow my directions exactly as I tell you to." Turtle was all excited as the day he had been waiting for had now arrived. Eagle continued, "Big brother, I am going to grab you and fly with you up to the sky, and then I will let you go, and you can fly from there." Turtle said, "Oh, little brother, this is all I have ever wanted you to do. Now my dream has come true. Yes, just fly me up to the sky and let me go, and I will do the rest." Then he started to move his 4 legs and his tail and his head as if they were his wings. Eagle flew over and grabbed the turtle, and up, up, up they went. Turtle was all excited and practicing flapping his legs, his head, and his tail as if they were his wings, as Eagle was flying higher and higher and higher. Turtle looked down and got a little bit dizzy, but not too bad. Then he said, "Okay, little brother, this looks like a good place to start. You can let me go right here." Eagle said, "No, not yet. Remember, you have to follow my directions exactly." And so Eagle flew higher and higher and higher. Turtle was getting really anxious now, and so he said again, "Okay, little brother, this looks like a good place to start. You can let me go right here." Eagle said rather emphatically, "No, not yet. Remember, I said we will do this by my directions only." And higher they soared into the clouds. Then suddenly Eagle screamed, "Okay, now!" And he let Turtle go, and it took the turtle by surprise, but he started to flap his wings anyway. He soon noticed that he was falling instead of flying. Even so, he was still frantically trying to move his wings, which were really his legs, his head, and his tail. Then he started to spin around and around. His shell was making this whizzing noise. Whizz, and it was making whistling noises too because of the air going over those areas where his legs and tail were located. Eagle was trying to be serious, but the sight of the turtle flying was really funny to watch, so he started to laugh and laugh and laugh. Then Eagle flew right up close to Turtle and said, "Geez, big brother, you really fly good. I really like the way you fly. If only I could fly like that and make all those really cool war cries like you." At the same time, Turtle was grunting while still trying to be cool like he knew what he was doing. Yet his motion seemed to make him fall faster, and Eagle was laughing so hard that he started to fall as well, but he caught his balance just before the ground came up to meet them. Turtle hit some bushes and started to bounce all over the place until he eventually bounced back into the creek where he started from. Eagle said, "Do you see, big brother? You should only fly in the water because that is what you are. And you cannot ever be something that you are not." And so Turtle was all shamed out and embarrassed, and he flew away under the water back to his home. The moral of this story is, do not try to be something you are not, because you will only make a fool out of yourself if you do. And worse, you could die.
The story of the turtle who wanted to fly, it shows you what can happen when you try to be something that you're not. And this turtle really thought all he had to do was certain things, and then he could fly too. It's just like these women over here, who are trying to be Lakota. They think that all they have to do is certain things, and that they will be Lakota. And it's just not true. Yeah, it is just not the case. So, and look at what happened to this girl from Germany, the one who went to Cheyenne River, and geez, what if this was wintertime? Yeah, what if this was wintertime and he treated her this way, just putting her outside. Yeah, just telling her to be outside and stay out there, and my goodness. Yeah, it's really a dang, that's a life and death kind of situation she put herself in. And this shows you, yeah, that um people who are this way, they're just not rational. They do not think rational. They think if they do this, then everything will fall in place. Yeah, the girl from Frankfurt felt that if she can get this Lakota guy to marry her, then everything is going to be a dream. That everything will fall into place. Just think, he put her life in danger. He treated her mean. She was 6,000 miles away from home. And it was just fortunate that there was a women's shelter there that took her in for safety. Even after all, the shit that he threw at her, she's still going back for more. See, it shows you they don't have common sense. That means there's a mental problem. That's sad. Uh, so anyway, everything that I'm saying tonight is based on Lakota Star knowledge, and all I ask is you think about it. Yeah, think about that, and maybe you know somebody like this. Maybe you are someone like this. I'm just asking you to think about it. Okay? I'm just asking you to think about it. Nothing more. Because that process of thinking about it leads to other things, and that could lead to something nice.